Frankly, this is one of those stories that I still find to be jaw-dropping, breathtaking, that this is going on in Britain. British police forces, they used to be a bastion of sensibleness, common sense. Now they're barking crazy. This is the story of Cathy Larkman, who served with the South Wales Police Force for more than 3 decades, rising to the exalted rank of superintendent. She was shocked not so long ago to be called upon at her home near Port Talbot in South Wales on September the 4th. Coppers, came to her house and said she was being investigated for a potential hate crime. The hate crime was this. 10 months they investigated this. There's some bloke in a dress who calls himself Frida. And Cathy Larkman, referred to him on social media as Fred. The police said, well, you dead named him, and that's a hate crime. I mean, really? It's not a hate crime. Well, South Wales Police, after 10 months, 10 months investigation, have said, actually, the criminal threshold has not been reached here. It's not a crime. Of course it's not a crime. If a bloke in a dress calls himself Frida, and I want to call him Fred, it's not against the law to do it. You know, you might say, well, you know, what the hell? You want to be called Frida? I'll call you Frida. But if I want to call him Fred, I'll call him Fred. So should Cathy. So welcome to the show, Cathy Larkman, former superintendent, now one of the directors of the Women's Rights Network. Cathy, welcome.
Hi, Kev. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, this is quite, as a former copper, a senior copper, you know, I still find, you know, you must find this shocking. I still find this shocking that coppers are turning up on people's doors and saying, 10 months ago, there's this bloke in a dress and he wants to call himself Frida and you called him Fred. You're under arrest. I mean, what is going on? What is going on? Why does it take them 10 months, the South Wales Police that you used to work for, to realise this is not a crime?
Oh, goodness. I mean, there is so much to this story. When the officers called on me, it was actually still being investigated as an active crime. And the crime that they cited was an allegation of malicious communications. Now, as you quite correctly say, they've been investigating this for 10 months. The allegation had been made in November of last year. And I'll come back to that because I sort of knew that allegation had been made because the person who made the allegation, which wasn't Frida, by the way, it was another individual, had been boasting about the fact that they'd reported to me online. And I tried to find out via a subject access request to South Wales Police and had a very cagey response to them. And obviously 3 decades of policing sort of told me that there was something up. So when they rocked up at my door, it was a shock. But I'd had a bit, you know, I felt like it had been coming really, and I'd sensed it was coming because of the boasts that had been made. So there were 3 tweets, and 2 of them were from September 2024. So at the time of reporting, they were already 2 months old. One of them was actually from November 2022. So it was 2 years old at the time that I was reported. And that particular one, I referred the individual as Frida on it and basically corrected them on a point of law around strip searching. Yeah. The other 2 from September related to me just saying, you know, put the drink down, Fred, or Fred has blocked me, so I'm going to block Fred back. And that was it. You know, as you say, I've been in policing for over 3 decades. I was very, very proud to be a police officer, very proud to serve the public, and I'm still very proud of that fact as well. Police officers do not sign up for this. It's absolutely ridiculous. There is a very high bar in relation to malicious communications, usually threatening, grossly offensive or indecent. And to suggest this came even near a low bar is a ridiculous suggestion.
How many coppers turned up at your house, Cathy?
There were 2 officers turned up. I wasn't in at the time. They left details with a family member and I called them back and spent a long time discussing it with them. I'll be quite honest, Kev, I laughed at the suggestion.
But it is ridiculous.
And you know, they were very open with me. I sort of sensed their embarrassment and their frustration that they were having to deal with this. And in fact, one of their first statements to me were, "We hate having to deal with this."
Yeah, this is what happens every time. You know, friend of mine, a colleague of mine, Alison Pearson at the Telegraph, 2 coppers turn up to her house last Remembrance Sunday morning, 9:30.
Yeah,
She answered
remember
the
it
door.
well.
She answered the door in her dressing gown, and they were all, "I'm really sorry to have to do this, but." Now, what I would say is, you former senior copper, we had, for example, Sir Mark Rowley, the Met Police Chief, the Chief Constable of the Met Police here in London, saying this week, "Oh, well, Graham Linehan, you know, the Father Ted creator, we had no choice. We had to arrest him at the airport. We had no choice." Yes, you did have a choice. Just don't bother. Just don't bother. Right?
Officers have discretion. You know, to suggest that they had no choice is absolute poppycock. Yeah. And it's I found it quite offensive reading Mark Rowley's statement, along with the suggestion that he be allowed to put forward suggestions to Parliament on how to resolve this. This is a failure of police leadership, because unfortunately this weakness where officers are running round and allowing themselves to be weaponised by bad faith actors, because it was certainly a bad faith actor in this case, has been baked into the system and allowed to happen by senior police leadership who are not taking responsibility for that now and blaming everybody other than themselves. It's not good enough. Absolutely right. They blame politicians. That's what Mark Rowley did. "Oh, it's the politicians' fault. We don't have any choice." Every single day, thousands of Rowley's officers and officers all over the country make the decision not to investigate, for example, car thefts, bicycle thefts, shoplifting. They make these decisions all the time. So when Rowley said, "We have no choice, we are legally bound to arrest Graham Linehan at the airport," yes, you've got every choice. Here's what Rowley should have done. I bet you'd have done this when you were a top cop. Just don't bother. Let him come into the country. Don't waste police time. Don't waste taxpayers' money, right? Well, if you're prepared to sort of stand up and take the promotions and wear that rank on your shoulders, you have to be prepared to take the decisions and justify them, and to back up your officers as well when it's needed. Not to have them scurrying around, wasting valuable officer time dealing with complete and utter rubbish. You know, when I reflected on what happened after I finished laughing, I was actually really, really cross, because I just thought, you know, I'm an ex-officer. I've served at every rank up to superintendent. I've been frontline throughout all of my service. But if I'd been a regular member of the public, receiving a phone call from a family member that 2 officers have knocked on their door and they're investigating you for a crime, you know, I'd have been terrified. You know, it would have had a profound effect on me. And that makes me angry, really, in respect to the public, because that's just not good enough. Yeah, my essential point here, Cathy, let me know if you agree, I sense you might, is that too many top cops, chief constables all over the country, have allowed, probably with their encouragement, their forces, their coppers, to become woke enforcement officers. They seem very keen on pursuing that, but if you get your car nicked, they can't even be bothered to talk to you. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, 100%, you know, and there are so many examples of this, you know, from the Women's Rights Network point of view. We've been dealing with chief officers signing off policies allowing male officers to self-identify and to strip searching women contrary to the law. So there's an ideological capture of policing at the very top that unfortunately rots down and means that officers at the very bottom who are being trained into you know, a particular sort of mindset are too frightened to make decisions then, because they know they will not have the backup further up the line, really, to challenge those as well. You know, it really is a situation where policing needs to be reviewed now, and, you know, everything that police officers do really needs to be reviewed, and we need to decide what our priorities actually are. My last point, Cathy, is this, that police forces, coppers, frontline coppers, top coppers, chief constables need to be told that it is not an offence to be offensive. It is not a crime to offend someone, and yet they seem to feel it is. Well, the malicious communications offence that they rocked up at my door for specifically mentions in all the advice how important your Article 10 rights to freedom of expression are before you make any decisions in relation to this. You know, That's a very, very important principle, our right to free expression, and should be protected at all costs, because, you know, otherwise we're just walking into a dystopia.
Absolutely. We need people like you, Cathy. Let's keep in touch. Good to talk to you. Cathy Larkman there, former Superintendent Copper, investigated for an alleged hate crime. What a load of nonsense.